here goes nothing. Huh. All right. Okay, just to touch on these from the last video, I didn't have them installed yet. I went ahead and painted them, and then I notched these out, and the notches come out just a little bigger than I needed, but not too bad. So pretty nice fit, aerodynamic. Yeah, everything looks good. Pretty happy with that. These wingtips definitely brought down my stall speed. Several mile an hour, I would say. And I'm just seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing it in indicated stall numbers. I'm seeing it in approach speed. I've been noticing just flying by fuel, and then I look up at my airspeed and I'm like, ooh, that's several miles an hour slower than I have been approaching, and it feels crisp. But anyway, yeah, I'm about to pull the cow, and it's time to get started on the fuel injection install. I got all these other little projects done I wanted to have wrapped up, second batteries in and all that, so it's ready to, support the fuel pump package. But I'll film stuff along the way to show you guys interesting things. As far as I know, nobody's ever put a Superior cold air sump on a Titan, so that's kind of cool. We'll see how that plays out. Okay, this is a little under 11.5 pounds. So the other one, the Sump pipes carburetor, was 19 and some change. I think 19.25 pounds. This is 11, a little under 11.5. So I'm gonna keep track of everything. All right, got the gasket cleaned off the old one. Everything's clean and dry. Got this one all sprayed down and washed out and cleaned again just to make sure. All right, sump is on, bolts are torqued. It's coming together, fits good, looks good. It's just a bummer about the cowling changes. The rest of it's awesome. All right, so I just got the pipe in from Clint that fits with the Superior sump. I haven't trimmed the end. I got to trim the end off and then remove that end piece from the old pipe and put it on this one to match so everything looks right, but no big deal. Got the EGT in, got it torqued up, and getting ready to put the intake pipes on. Looks like they're going to fit, no problem. But I was just kind of moving my wiring around and safety wiring different things on the sump and doing little odds and ends before I move on to the pipes. But everything's looking good. That's an awesome deal. He's got, like I said earlier, he's got a Superior sump up there just so he can, make a jig and make these pipes that fit. I mean, Vetterman's the only one that has this RV4, individual pipe exhaust. And I went back and read the testing they did years ago, and the 4-pipe exhaust ultimately made the most power, and it's simple and light and everything. But this is a special deal to fit with the Superior forward-facing cold air sump. I think I covered this in an earlier video, but this is the anti-splat oil separator, which does work good. I'm not feeding the oil back into the engine because it's that nasty, watery, milky substance, and there's a lot of opinions floating around, but I wanted to keep an eye on how much oil I'm losing anyway. So I have a little drain valve down here, and I'm not really losing any oil out of the separator. All I've gotten out of there is water. Those same guys also make this oil heater to warm up your engine. This whole thing, it's got a plug on it, but it weighs like a couple ounces. It's super light, and it threads into one of your ports on your sump. It's got a provision to safety wire it. It's only like 2 amps, so you don't have to have a ton of power, which is nice. And you just leave it plugged in, and as long as there's oil in the sump, it'll never get too hot, but it will slowly warm up the engine. Oh, one of the things I was to tell you about this anti-splat arrow place, but I sent them a couple emails asking some questions about both these devices, and they were just really, really helpful, friendly, thorough, just really good customer service. Anti-splat arrow. Okay, there it is. Sump is fully installed. The 2 rear pipes were bottoming out into the sump a little bit, and not just, it was kind of questionable if it was going to let this line up without flexing something. So I took and trimmed those pipes back just a 1/16 to an 1/8, cleaned them out real good and all that. Now they fit nice. I measured each quart of oil on the dipstick and then marked it because it was slightly different. And probably has more to do with the airplane just sitting at an angle, being a tail dragger, than anything else, but I wasn't sure if this sump would be the same, so I marked the stick every quart. Everything's in, got to start on the fuel injection next, but it's looking good. That's pretty cool. All right, guys, back down at the hangar here, getting ready for the second part of this install, the actual fuel injection. So we left off, the sump is on, everything's good there, the little heater's in, the drain valve, new exhaust, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I brought down the fuel injection setup. We'll dig into that. Showed you guys that a couple videos ago. It's beautiful stuff. Very excited. The fuel pump install, it's quite possibly the most complicated part of the whole thing, that and bending up the fuel lines. But the fuel pump has got to go under the seat. We'll get into that, see if it fits down under there. Bunch of stuff today, very excited. We're gonna dive right in and get to it. All right, got the adapter on, had to double nut and pull the studs out of the sump so I could put these Allen headed bolts in. This is the adapter that goes from the sump inlet to the throttle body unit itself, because this thing is pretty large, this FM200A. Okay, got the unit mounted. I'm gonna have to move both the mixture control and the throttle body itself. Arms, you know, gotta move those, rearrange those, the orientation. I've got this cool bracket. I didn't think where I bought it from, but it's a cool bracket that's made for the Superior sump. It bolts on underneath here on there's some provisions here it bolts on, and it gives you some nice mounting points to capture the throttle mixture cables and hold them and line them up for this. All right, it's been a long night down here. Everything had to be done 5 times and ran into a lot of little weird issues. You know, typical stuff. But anyway, that's okay. It's really coming together. Got the new throttle and mixture cables in. Got the ends made up. Got everything, you know, set up. Got the mounts made. I used one of those cable safes on the throttle. On the mixture, I just used some Adele clamps and safety wire and made a little bracket. But it's all really secure. And yeah, it feels good. Ranges are good. Throws are good. Everything moves pretty easy, especially the throttle. It's real light friction. I'm liking this. So anyway, I'm going to move on to the next things, which is I got some fuel lines to make up. I'm getting rid of this line, making up new line from the firewall forward. But I'm going to do some PTFE, like lifelong type lines out here. That line actually goes to here. This is the metered outlet fuel that goes to the distribution block up on top of the engine. So I got to make up that line and bring it up on top through the baffling somewhere and all that. All right, just assembling the flow divider here. Got to put this part together, safety wire it, and this sits up on top of the engine. And I'm putting the inlet facing forward, which is this one right here. And then I'll be running my injectors off of these 4. These will get plugged back here. There's the injectors, there's plugs in there. And then this sits up on top of the engine. Mounts off on the 1 and 3 cylinder side, kind of over in this little pocket right here, and it's just up high enough that the line should come across the ignition wires. Okay, and it feeds over to these ports. Oh, and just to touch on this, you know, I got all my linkages on, cables on and everything, but one of the things I wanted to mention was, you know, I made this bracket and I brought this out to support it, but I went a little too far, so I cut a little notch in the side of that right at the end of my thumb, you can see, and then I bent this up. And the reason is as you move the mixture, this cable has to go up just a little. You know, as this throw moves, it technically goes up just a little. And so it probably would have been fine as is. There was enough area to flex, probably would have gone 50 years. But it's one of those things, I don't want to go to bed at night thinking, oh, I could have done a little better. I just want to kind of do everything I can. You know, you want things to be supported but not overly rigid, you know. Like this fuel line, I've got to make a support for this. I'm sure it'd be fine, but I want to support it so it isn't sitting there flapping in the breeze and rubbing on stuff. Just and supporting it to where it isn't putting a load on the fittings. Things like that really matter, I think, over time. Now you're flexing that cable over a longer span. Okay, quick little progress update. The metered fuel line is installed. Run through, plumbed in, got the plugs in, getting ready to put the injectors in the heads. I got all the Allens popped loose in the heads without any drama, so that's good. All right, guys, we just had that really cold front come in. It was negative 17 is the lowest I saw temperature-wise, and then, of course, wind chill well below that. So had a few days not working on it. Back at it, finishing up the last couple of hard lines here. Just adding a second brace. They recommend around every 8 inches or so to try to brace it, so I'm just doing the best I can. I'll tie them together here with some rubber stuffed, something flexible and soft. Gonna put another one in over here. The other side's done. Those are shorter. Those are easier. But yeah, hard lines, and then I just got to wire up the fuel pumps, and that's it. We can start it. Would you guys please subscribe? I also have a Patreon if you want to help fund this whole endeavor. And what I mean by that is keep the channel going, keep the content going. You know, if you're enjoying, if you're getting something out of this, whether it's whatever it is you're getting out of it, if you're getting something, help me out by doing that. All right, let's get back to the video, because this baby just ran for the first time, and the results are better than expected. All right, guys, so I pulled out my old fuel pump bypass valve and all that, and I had this fuel pressure takeoff piece. I put that back already. And look at this. This is actually crazy. If you look at where this goes, it might actually fit in there exactly right. Sorry, let me get the camera down here. Those fittings pretty well line up to where I think that's going to just fit right in the plumbing. And then I just got to find a way to support it, because it's going to be floating under here, and it fits good. I think this is going to come together really well. Okay, just wrapping this up. I just wrapped up the wiring and tested. Actually, I haven't tested the second pump yet, but I'm sure it'll work, but I will test it. This is just a safety wire here I put across here that just puts a little bit of down pressure pushing into that padded bar that goes underneath that supports the pumps. So I've got some padding on that bar, some tape underneath the pumps, just so that nothing will rub, and that just keeps everything solid enough. It isn't vibrating, moving around, but it isn't pushing down real hard or anything. But now the pumps are supported. They're also protected from passengers' feet. Wiring is done. I tested one of the pumps. Fuel pressure reads like it should. Haven't seen any leaks yet. Everything's looking pretty good under here, so I can start cleaning up, and this thing is ready to fire it up. All right, guys, welcome back to the video. Just getting things rolling down here for the first start, hopefully. Preheating it, got the oil sump heater plugged in, some other heaters. It's got the door open. It's a nice 40-degree January day outside, and after that cold snap we had, which, you know, I'm sure a lot of you experienced as well, this feels pretty good. So I'm going to take it out. I don't have the cowl on it, so I can't fly it. Not going to run it very long, but I just want to make sure it runs and everything's good before I move on and start working on the cowl modifications, so that we can get this thing back in the air. I'm going to go ahead and try the first start here and see what happens. This one even reach it? No?
No. Okay,
good.
Can't happen now.
All right. Okay, let's see. We're going to go battery 2.
Throttle's down to idle.
Throttle's at idle, ignition's on. The one fuel pump. Here goes nothing. Huh. All right, let's better.
it looks like it gets real pissed off when you got it wide open.
Damn. Yes. All right, guys, as you saw, first start and run with the fuel injection in the books, went perfect. Took a little bit to start, figured it would. It's got to get fuel in the system. There's probably a lot of air in it. Once that happened, fired up, ran good. EGTs were almost identical most of the throttle range and stuff most of the time. I didn't check when it was wide open. I was too busy looking at RPM, making sure it was safe, looking at oil pressure, checking the mixture. But everywhere else I looked, they were literally identical. It's amazing. Went from a 200-degree spread to 0. Now, obviously, EGT indication is not everything. Where the cylinders peak at different fuel flows is how you really tell. But regardless, way closer than it was. Totally awesome. But here's the really exciting big news. I have checked static RPM a few times. Now, I have a lot better data in the air at exact climb speed, temperature, altitude. I know exactly what RPM it runs on climb mount. But I have checked it statically, and I saw 70 RPM more than I've ever seen. And I'm not even sure I had it perfectly lean, because as I played with that, I went from 50 more to 70 more. There might even be a touch more in there somewhere. But it's possible it just picked up 70 RPM. That is insane. I was hoping for 50. If I got 50, I was going to be thrilled. And to see 70, that's ridiculous. That's a lot of power. But so far, everything looks good. Throttle response was good. Like I say, EGTs were good. RPM pickup, awesome. No leaks. So I'm very excited. So I'm going to put down the camera, get this thing back inside, and I'm going to start working on the cow, because, man, I got to get this thing together so I can fly it and we can confirm these numbers. So I'm going to wrap up that video here, you guys. Next video, I'll show some, what I'm doing with the cow to kind of patch that up and get it in the air. And then we'll get into the flying and what kind of performance increase we see and characteristics of all that. That'll be in the next video. Yeah, so that's it on this one, guys. Thanks a lot for being here and watching. Please subscribe, and you guys know the deal. Take care. We'll see you on the next one.